I don't think I haven't heard you speak, but you seem you're a very spiritual person.
Yeah.
When did this come about? Have you always been like this?
Yeah. Well, I didn't grow up in the church.
Okay.
When I was about 12, I started going to a youth group that my acting coach, shout out to Carnetta Jones, was my acting coach from age 11 to 26. And she was a youth group leader.
Okay.
And it was called God's Gang, which is now the name of my production company. And I had some friends, there were two girls in school especially, who looked out for me when people would try to bully me. And those two girls and one of their older sister and a 5-year-old girl they were babysitting and another friend of theirs left youth group that night and got into a car accident. And their friend passed away. The little girl who was about to turn 6 passed away. One of the girl's older sister, she passed away too, that's right. And then the girl whose younger sister it was that used to look out for me, she got severe brain damage. And the other girl who used to look out for me had to get reconstructive surgery and all this stuff. But we went to this, I forget what it's called, where you kind of like go out into the, woods and you camp and stuff and you pray and blah, blah. Right. And I remember that night her like calling out to God and crying and saying, why? And then she got saved that night. And so I was just like, well, how do you go to God instead of away from God when something like that happens?
Right.
And it just made me curious. And because I had so much respect for her and because she had looked out for me the way that she had, shout out to Alicia, wherever you are in the world, love you. It kind of put me on my path. Her example did. And so, after that, I became a Christian, and then I was like a Bible stomper and like super religious and very judgmental. I remember when my sister lost her virginity. I was 14, she was 16. I went to her, I was like, I just don't want you to go to hell. Like I was that kid. None of my friends told me when they lost their virginity. Everyone was like, don't tell Meagan, Of course, I was the last to lose my virginity at 19. And then at that time, I kind of, there's all these phases of getting to know God and maturing. My prayer used to be like, please let me look like one of the lead seekers from In Vogue. He actually answered that prayer. Shout out to In Vogue. But then, as you get older, your prayers mature, your relationship with God matures. You start to get perspective and learn. And so mine has always been a journey, and these last 2 years has been especially a journey, but it's such an incredible journey. The place that I'm in now, where I just have such a freedom in God and just such a trust that God knows my heart and knows who I am even better than I do. And so, it's been a really beautiful place, a really beautiful journey.
Is the last 2 years where your faith has been tested the most?
For sure. Not this past year. This past year, I'm like, Lord, I know you're going to do what you do, and I trust you. And making sure that I was there to give that to Jonathan. That's what I felt that I was there to do. Yeah. My faith has never wavered in that, in that instance. But going through the divorce, that shook me to my core. I was just like, but Lord, you asked me to be celibate, and I was. You told me who to marry. I married that person. I try to do everything to the best of my ability, and no, I didn't do everything perfect. But I don't know that I could have done anything different, if I'm being honest. And so I was just like, why is this happening? My greatest fear was for my husband to leave me after 10 years of marriage, the way that my dad and my mom separated. And that's exactly what happened. And it was just like, I don't understand this. And so it was a lot of prayer, a lot of evaluation, a lot of learning about myself even. It was a lot of realizing the place that we both were in. It was a lot of just like rediscovering God and realizing that sometimes the way that we see or understand things, it's not that it's not true. It's just you do come into different seasons. And I had to accept that if this isn't something I've chosen, but it's something that God has allowed, then God has allowed it for a good reason. And I think that we both have grown from it tremendously. I think that now I think that at the time I was so mad at DeVon, but now I think what he did was very brave. And I think that it was a very scary thing to know that the church and all the people, everyone was going to be like, well, this is not what a man of God or a woman of God does, you know?
Right.
And of course there were a lot of people who were like, well, Meagan must have done something. And I'm like, what? You know? But I think that in order to grow to the place that we've grown, I think we absolutely were supposed to be married for that amount of time. And I think we got the best and the benefit out of it. And I think he taught me a lot and I taught him a lot. And we took a lot, we gave a lot. But we're still friends. Mm-hmm. And you know, as he said, the love is, you know, transitioned into something else, but it's still love. Mm-hmm. And I don't regret anything. And I'm super thankful for the time that we were married. And I'm super thankful for what I learned. And I think that I love now in a different capacity, because when your absolute worst fear happens, now there's nothing to be afraid of anymore.
In that situation, you like, I prayed for this. I was everything, God, everything you asked me to do, I did.
Yeah.
Did you feel at that moment that as the marriage is starting to dissolve, did you feel like a failure?
No, I don't think so, because I feel like we had almost 10 successful years of marriage. I feel like I got so much from it that has made me better and has helped me grow. And I feel that he feels the same way. Right. So I don't feel like it was a failure by any means. Mm-hmm. I just didn't understand it. Because I was like, but this, you say forever, it means forever. Right. You know? And that wasn't the case, you know? But I think that part is the part that I struggle with the most, because I would have never gotten a divorce under any circumstances. Really? And I don't know if that's always the right thing, right. You know? And it's not that anything bad was going on. Nobody was cheating, nothing like, you know, and I won't get into why we divorced, right. But I don't know if being married for the sake of just
societal, because society says you.
Well, because religion, you know, I think you really have to have a relationship with God and see how God is moving you. And sometimes it's not going to make sense to anybody else. And that's okay. It's not for it to make sense to anybody else. You just have to be in tune with
prior to you being married to someone, a minister. Yeah. You being being a woman of faith, belief. Yeah. Would you have felt this way had you not grown through that? About not necessarily like being married.
Oh no, I think I still would have been like, no, you get married. It says the word. Y'all better work it out. You better figure it out. You better do something. Okay. And I think if you can, you should. Right. But again, I think that sometimes God moves us in ways that it may seem contradictory to other people's perception or how they see or read the word or literally what it says. But I think that's why we have to be very clear on having a relationship with God, not just a religion with God. We have to be very clear on hearing from God. And that's got to be the compass, period, the relationship with God. And not the relationship where you're not really hearing that and you just want to do what you want to do and you want a reason to do it or an excuse to do it, but really knowing if that's what you're hearing God to tell you to do, no matter what anybody thinks or anyone says, you got to move the way God's telling you to. And that's just that.
Outside of your closest friends, your support, do people or did people know that you had such a close relationship with God?
I think people see what they want to see. If you go back to every men's magazine that I was on the cover of and you realize that I never wore a bathing suit, I never wore lingerie, and then you look in those interviews from 1999, 2001, 2004, 2000, you will always see that I always said, I am a Christian, I believe in God, I'm not going to do anything that would disappoint God, God is my compass. I've always talked about God. And I think that sometimes when people go, oh, well, it's the cover of a men's magazine. Well, for me, that's not a conviction of mine. I don't feel that God is concerned with what I'm wearing. And so if that is not my conviction, it says in the Bible, he who has faith have it to himself before God. Happy is he who does not condemn himself in what he proves. Meaning, and then it goes on to talk about if you don't really believe that that's what God approves, then you are sinning. But if you really believe that between you and God, then that's that, period. That's what that is for you. And so that's the tattoo I have on my hand, which even that is like, oh, you shouldn't pierce your butt. Well, for me, it's a reminder to not go too far down the religious rabbit hole,
right,
and stay in the relationship with God. God, what do you say?
Right.
And so for me, I never had a conviction about that kind of thing. My feeling was like, I want to get these words that I'm saying about God and how much I love God and how God is the head of my life. I want to get this to the people who are going to pick up this magazine, because I'm not going to get to them any other way. And most of the other people in the church, they're not going to get to them at all.
Right.
So if I feel comfortable and I don't feel like I'm doing something wrong, then I'm just going to be authentically me, and I'm going to reach other people that other people don't, just by being who I'm called to be and being authentically that.
Before you take a role, do you always pray on it?
Majority of the time. Sometimes I just feel in my spirit, I'm like, okay, good. I feel good about this. If I'm not sure, then I pray about it. If I've ever felt that God's like, no, that's not what I want you to do, then I just won't do it, period.
Wow.
Even if I want to do it, period, I won't do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's easy. It's easy when you have that kind of faith, and you say you've been walking, since you were about 19?
I've been saved since I was 12.
12.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lost your virginity at 19. So you've been on this road. You've been on this road for the better part of 2 decades.
Yeah.
So the highs and the lows, you never question, like, it's God's will, and whatever he decides, whatever his will.
Yeah, I think that I have to accept that, because you can't accept one thing and not accept the other. And so I trust God, and even like, when the divorce happened, I was mad at God. I was like, what the hell? Like, I was so mad, but I was just like.
But you never questioned it.
I didn't question if I was going to be okay. I questioned, well, why do it?
Right.
What was the point? And
allow us
over
to come
time,
together, and then here we are.
Yeah, and then also I was like, you knew this was my worst fear. Like, why? And then. Over the years, and it's, almost been like 3 years now. So, over the years, I'm always revealed a lot more. And every time I'm revealed a lot more, I'm just really in gratitude and thankful that I married someone that was so wonderful, and that is so wonderful, and that we had that time, and that we grew together, and just all the things. Right. And so, I don't believe that anything's in vain. That's probably the only moment where I was just like, okay, Lord.
Right.
But now I'm like, okay, Lord, thank you.
You mentioned Tyler Perry. You're in this new movie, Divorce in the New Black.
A Divorce in the Black.
Divorce in the Black.
Yeah.
What? Because Divorce in the Black. So obviously, if I'm having to guess, you were divorced.
Yes.
You're a divorcee.
Oh, yes.
How much, having gone through that, were you able to fall back on and says, okay, and boom, here we go? All of it.
Because even though she's in a very different situation than I was in, it's still that reality of expecting that your life is going to go one way, and then suddenly realizing it's going to go a totally different way. And then you are trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, and having to learn yourself, but realizing that you've also changed and you've grown, and then you having to kind of calibrate your mind to not be sad, and not, like, you have to go through the sadness. You definitely have to go through the pain and the crying, and the process, which is a process, I think, to some degree, you never don't not have it in some way, shape, or form. As long as you don't let it make you bitter, you let it make you better. But the process that she had to go through to go, okay, now I'm in this next phase of life, and I'm going to embrace this, and I'm going to get excited about this, and I'm going to figure out what I want and what makes me happy. Right. And having complete freedom after that to be like, okay, it's my world, what I want to do with it, Right. And so I think many of the moments that Ava had, there's a scene where I'm running, and it was just like I was just so there. I knew exactly where Ava was, and I was just so there with her, and I was pleased to be able to gift her with the realest, truest, rawest emotion of what that reality was.
Is it easier to play a role when you're familiar? Not just a character, but you like, I've been there, I've done that. I actually know what a divorcee is going through in this very moment. I can tell you what it's like.
Yeah, I think it is easier, although there is your experience and their experience.
Yeah, because you might not have gone through the reason why she got divorced might not be the reason why you got the divorce. Right. So it has to be different. I mean, I'm reading that divorce, marriage gone wrong. Maybe it's domestic violence, maybe it's finances, or whatever the case may be. Right. But at the end of the day, is that big D.
Yes. Yeah. And the only difference is, how does this person download and process it?
Yes.
Like, for instance, with my character in Harlem, it's the first time where I go, oh, okay, she's a Gemini. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pursue all Gemini traits. So if you come at her like this, Meagan might get indignant and be like, but a Gemini is actually going to go, wait a second, and get introspective, and a totally different gear is going to hit for them. And so that's the only difference, is even though I can understand where the character's at, distinguishing the difference between not just Ava and Meagan's journeys, but Ava and Meagan's mentalities and their bandwidth for pain, and their how much did they hide from their family, how much did they share, what's the dynamic between her mother versus her, all those things. That would probably be the only thing. But do I think it's easier in general? Yes, because you already have a leg up, because you already have such a rich well to pull from.
Should we view divorce as bad?
I don't know anymore. I don't know.
Prior to you going through divorce, how did you view divorce? But prior to it happening to you, how would you view it?
I felt like for any other reason besides domestic violence, I'm like, y'all better figure that out. But now I don't know. I think that what I experienced made me less judgmental about an experience that somebody else is having that I don't know what it is. And I can't say that it's bad or good for anybody. All I can say is that it hurt a lot for me, but I think that it also was a blessing to both of us in a way. And not because it happened, but because if it had to happen and that was a part of our story, we both got so much from it.
Did you feel you let people down?
Yes and no, because I think I felt that I let people down a bit with the weight, because I never said to someone, well, this is what I think you should do. Right. And I never pursued making the book like, look how I did it, guys. This is what it was never that. It was always people asking and inquiring me, saying, oh, well, this is the spaces that I'm in. This is what God's telling me to do right now. And people being curious. And from that coming a book talking about our experience, not necessarily telling people to go do it, but saying this is why it worked for us. And this is why, we believe in it. And I still believe in the weight. And I still believe that it worked for us. I think that what didn't work for us were the reasons why we ultimately, divorced. But I think that, I think the weight allowed us to get the full benefit. And I think it's the reason that we're still friends to this day. I think it's the reason that we walked into the room with both of our divorce attorneys and, you look great. Look at you. You've been working out. Yeah, you look great too. Da-da-da. How you doing? And they looking like, y'all getting divorced?
Right.
And we're like, yeah. And they're like,
but you see,
okay, y'all just, okay, and when they see us, we see each other in the street, people tense up around us, and I'm like, how are you doing? And it's just like, and it's genuine love. And I think a lot of that really is because of the weight and the way that we got to know each other and the quality of the human being and the trust that was there. Even if there, was disappointment at the end, I can look at DeVon and say, that's a fucking good person.
Wow.
And I'm thankful for that time.
Divorce in the Black will launch globally on Prime Video July 11th.
Want to join Club Shay Shay? Become an official member by hitting that subscribe button, where you never know who's going to be joining us for drinks and conversation. Don't be late to the party, because you know we like to do something before two something.